Okay, so welcome back to Thief Adventures, or the Way of the Thief, Kamiwaza, Kamiwaza, Way of the Thief. So it's been a while since I recorded the first episode of this. So I've been playing this game quite a bit since then. In fact, I beat it already. Not really a surprise because the Way of games tend to be kind of short because you can take different paths to get like it's mostly about the endings you get, right? Like you look in the journal here, you see that red ball, that third ball. Well, that's supposed to be a bag, really. That indicates the ending that I got. So there are four different endings that you try to shoot for, and so I think really a solid playthrough probably takes about anywhere from like 10 to 12 hours if you're really trying to get into it. And so I beat the game and I'm playing it again. So obviously, since I went and beat the game and I'm playing it again, I must have developed quite a liking for it. But and see, that's kind of true, but then it's not. So I've gotten into this game at least enough to beat it and continue playing it. Because remember, on the first episode, I hated this game, and I still rate this game pretty low. I think all things considered, even after beating it and figuring it out, I rate this game about a 5 out of 10. And I'll say this just to kind of explain like how I feel about the game at this point is that once you get into it and you figure out how it works, it's easy enough to kind of just go with the flow and um, you know progress through the game. The game isn't too demanding of the player, despite its flaws, despite how sloppily designed it is. It is not too demand once you got the hang of it. And so once I started to get the hang of it, it became easier just to make progress and whatnot. But I'll say that the thing about this game is that the concept is one that I like, and I guess you could say it's Way of the Samurai, but instead of a samurai, you're a thief. But it doesn't have the same level of polish, I think, as those games do. To me, this game is just much more. It's just much more poorly designed, if I had to say. But I think what made me come back to it and continue playing was the concept and getting invested in that, and which is the story being that your daughter or adopted daughter gets sick and then you have to steal to get money for the medicine to cure her. And that's what really got me invested in. And also the fact that you can steal from the rich and give back to the poor, and seeing how the effect that has on the villagers and how they respond to you. That's what I think is the strongest appeal of this game, is really submerging yourself in the role of what's his name, Ebizo. Really putting yourself in his shoes and wanting to be a noble thief, as he puts it. But I think the weakness of the game is that every mechanic is poorly designed, poorly executed. And that's the problem. Like, nothing is really good about this game other than the concept, other than the idea, and just sort of allowing yourself to get into that. If you can get into the idea of Way of the Thief and trying to be a noble thief for the sake of the villagers, and of course, there are certain other things that might hold your interest too, like developing him as a thief, because you have these different skills that you learn by getting skill points that make it easier to do your job. You can get in fact, let me show off some of these real quick. Let me show them off, just so you know what I'm talking about. So of course, this is his home base. So you can get new disguises, and they have different stats. some of them are more durable, which means they won't get knocked off you as quick if you get into a scuffle. Some of them are better for stealth. I don't think I have all of them, but I have quite a bit so far. But you know, it's the little things like that, and then you can change the material that also has an effect on their stats. So it's stuff like that that you kind of get into. You have different bags, and again, each bag has different stats. Some bags hold more items, some bags hold more loot. Some are better for stealth, some are better for power. You know, so there are different things to sort of. There are different things that are there that the player can get into in terms of having something to aim for. Like, oh, let me try to get these new bags or these new disguises or new skills. And but again, I think the problem with this game is that nothing is really done well. That's the big issue with this game. But I say that, I mean that. So what was that? Was that Abizio? Ebizo? But I mean, like, nothing in this game is done right. Nothing. But it's like, as everything comes together, like the way everything comes together underneath the concept of the game, it makes it a playable game and a somewhat enjoyable experience. But at the same time, perpetually disappointing all the while, because I think this game really has so much potential. It really does, but it's just, everything about it is just so poorly designed. But it's worth noting that this is a PlayStation 2 game that for whatever reason they decided to port onto the PS4. But I don't think they should have done it the way that they did. I think they should have done like a Yakuza Kiwami thing, where they not only ported it but completely updated it, added, and you know, like really put significant effort into bringing it into the new era, the new generation of console. They didn't just do a half-ass port like this. You know, they really remodeled, reshaped, and like legitimately brought an older game to a new generation to where it could stand toe to toe with its peers on that console, you know, and that's not what you see here. But we're gonna get into it. So this is the lock picking mechanic. It's actually kind of challenging. This is one of the hardest lock picking mechanics I've ever had to deal with in the game. Cause that shit be going fast. But there's an easier way to do it. I think there's a boss fight coming up too here. Excuse me, I had to get a sip of water there. I know that looks like a man in a woman's outfit, but apparently that is a woman. So this is one of the first boss battles, I think. You kind of got to do like the Link Ganondorf thing with her. And this is what I'm saying. This is exactly what I'm talking about when I say nothing in this game is done right. This is like, look at this. This is a boss fight. Oh my god. I'm about to die. Let me get a healing. Alright. Okay. It's hard to get the timing right. It's hard to get the timing right. Like, that's a boss fight. It's not over with yet. But when I say nothing in this game is done right, this is a good example of what I'm talking about. So this is supposed to be combat in the game. It's not fun. It's not engaging. It's sloppy and it's not fun. It's poorly. This is the boss fight. Oh shit! I might die too. So basically, the boss fights in this game, episode doesn't really fight. What he does is, in order to render his enemies unconscious, he steals all their possessions. So the fights are basically you running up and taking everything that they have. She knocked the fuck out of me with that uppercut. I got a rice ball there. If I can eat it, I might be able to win this. Okay. And that's the fight. Look, that's terrible. So that's what I'm talking about. You know, in a game, you know, you have different parts of a game that create the whole. Combat is just one of them. And in this game, combat is not good. It's bad. And I can appreciate what they were going for, because the game obviously doesn't take itself too seriously. So what they did for combat was basically make it in line with his profession of being a thief. Instead of, you know, stabbing and beating the opponent down, you steal everything they have to rent. Like, okay, that's comical, that's goofy. I can appreciate what that is, you know. But if you do something like that, it has to be well executed. It has to be done in such a way that combat is still engaging, fun, and satisfying. But as it stands, really all the combat in this game is so bad that it ends up being one of the worst parts of the game, you know. And that's never a good thing. It's never a good thing and to be fair, it's not a combat heavy game to begin with. The main thing is stealing and, you know, getting money and things like that. But still, if you're going to put it in the game, it should at least be decent. And the combat in this game is just one of those like broken elements of it that I'm speaking of. I mean, I think even starting with the way the character feels and the way they move, stuff like that is important too. And it's like, look, like this is the movement. Look at this. This is again just cheaply animated. You know, cheaply animated. You don't really get a good feel of weight for your character. Oh yeah, but maybe I explained this in the first episode, but the more you get seen doing illegal acts or hurting people, this picture of these wanted signs start to look more and more like you. And there are like 5 stages to it. And once it looks exactly like you, it has your name on it. If you don't lower that, what would you call it? I guess, if you don't lower your notoriety meter, I guess you could call it that, before you go back home, you'll end up getting arrested and they'll be game over. So part of this game is making sure that your notoriety stays down, or at least keeping your identity secret. I guess that's more accurate, because you do gain notoriety regardless, but it's like positive notoriety if you're stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. You see that meter down on the left hand side at the bottom there? That it goes from 1 to 100, and that's how much the villagers like you. So I'm at 94, which means that I'm pretty popular with the villagers because I've been doing a lot of favors for them. All right, let me make sure I got some goddamn dang good use. One of the more important items in the game, especially when you run into those those dusty ass boss fights. Let me get another one. So you have a few items here, as you can see. Firework mine, blowfish, oil pot, mount. Like, most of these items are meant to make stealing easier, but I found that you just don't need most of them. I mean, perhaps I'm missing out by not using them, but I've just found that you can get pretty much everything you need to get done using like the most basic thieving mechanics available to you. You don't need all these. Like, it's not like Tenchu where you can really get a lot of use out of the different ninja tools. Okay, he doesn't have any jobs available. So let me show off a bit here. I know I've been talking about how bad the game is, and it is. I still think it's a bad game. It's a bad game. But it does have a certain appeal to it that has kept me playing it. I'll say that. And I want to just show off like how it looks when you start to understand how thieving works in this game. Because I think that's where a lot of the potential of the game begins to show itself. But again, it's like everything is sort of, it's so poorly designed that it ends up being mediocre at best, if not outright bad. So here's one of the best locations in the game for stealing. This is a mansion. And what's this location called? In Nakasu Town. Alright, so here's one of the guards. So you know when they see you, because oh shit, hold up. You know when they see you because the screen will turn red for a second, and you have to press the button before they can identify you. So you saw how it slowed down and turned red, like the tint, a red tint appeared on the screen. That means somebody has seen you. Oh fuck, I fucked up there. So that's a townsperson. Oh god, it's so much bullshit to this game, but try to explain it. That's why I don't like this place though. But you saw how the townspeople meter went from 90 something to 80 something. That's because while I was trying to steal the stuff off of that guy, I was hitting him by accident. And that's another thing when I say, I mean, that's another example of what I'm talking about. That's another example of what I'm talking about when I say just how sloppily designed this game is. But the way this game works is that if you want to pickpocket people, again, you see that little, it turns red for a second. You press R2 and you do like this stylish dodge where all they see is the after image. And that gives you a chance to escape. But you can also use that chance to pickpocket them. And when you try to pickpocket someone while you've just done the little, the stylish dodge, it happens very fast. So it's a great way to knock out people. When you take all their belongings, they are rendered unconscious for like a minute or so. So I'm doing it again. All right, there's 2 people there, so that's way more dangerous. Oh, I already did him, so. It's more dangerous to do it when there are multiple people around, obviously. That guy he just got back up and was asleep. But anyway, so when you do the stylish dodge to get out of their line of sight, you can use the opportunity to pickpocket them. If you take everything, then they'll be rendered unconscious for I say about somewhere between like 30 seconds and a minute, not very long. And so that's the best way of dealing with guards and townspeople if you're just trying to sort of get them out of the way for a second. But really, it's obvious that speed is the motto here. The game really pushes you to try to get things done as quickly as possible. You know, and I think that's why you can only knock people out, if you want to even call it that, for such a short amount of time, because the idea is to do the jobs as quickly as possible. And when you do those stylish dodges, it puts you in a state where you get more gold as you steal things. It becomes easier to steal. And I think, what else does it do? It does something. Oh yeah. And if you happen to have a lock nearby, so after you do the stylish dodge, if there's a lock nearby and you interact with it, episode will automatically unlock it, so you won't have to do the mini game. So when you think about it, the way the game is designed is meant for you to kind of do things like consecutively, like almost like combos, right? Like you would like if there's, like, for example, there's one spot, right, where there's a guard in front of a locked gate. Okay, it's still the same. There's one part where there's a guard in front of a locked gate. And if you do the stylish dodge in front of him, you can pickpocket all of his stuff to knock him out. Then you can open the lock automatically because you're still in the stylish dodge mode, whatever you want to call it. And you can unlock that lock quickly, get in, and then unlock the next one just as fast. So it's like the way the game is designed is obvious that they want you to move fast when you do stuff. I have never seen this before. I didn't know you could do that. Oh, I see. So you go over there, it's like a free heal. I didn't know that. Okay. But I think I explained this before. When you got loot, you can either bring it back here for money, or you can bring it back to the people so that they'll like you. Now, there are different advantages to being liked by the people. Hold on, let's pick a nice mission here. Okay, this is a good one. Steal the fire breather's pipe from Gaigasaki Manor and escape. This is a good one. So I think one of the advantages is that, now I'm not sure why this happens, but when you do a mission, well, when you accept the mission, you can no longer fast travel to the bathhouse or your home. But I think when the villagers like you enough, I don't know what I'm thinking. Maybe this is it. Maybe that's why. I don't know. But you get the option to fast travel to the location of the job. But I'm not sure exactly what makes that become available. I'm not sure if it's the villagers liking you, or if it's paying enough tribute to the thieves, I want to say Thieves Guild, but that's fucking that's Elder Scrolls. But yeah, paying tribute to the thief organization you're a part of. Okay, so this is a little more complicated than normal, so I might look stupid here actually. Normally they show you exactly where the item you're supposed to steal is at. Sometimes they don't. This is one of those times where they're not. But yeah, there are different advantages to having the villagers like you. So, oh shit, hold up. Oh shit. Alright, so earlier, I told you that those wanted posters look more and more like you the more you get spotted In fact, I just remember you definitely put your disguise on before you start doing some serious thieving, because it makes it harder for people to recognize you. If you get seen a lot without a disguise on, then those wanted posters are going to resemble you much quicker, which is going to eventually lead to a game over. But another one of the advantages of the people liking you is that they will themselves start taking down some of those wanted posters. So essentially, the more the villagers like you, the slower the process of becoming recognized by the authorities is. But as you can see, I got a nice flow here where, you know, you run to the guards, you do the stylish dodge to escape your line of sight, then you pickpocket them until they're unconscious. Like, that's the basic flow of getting around these areas. Like, he sees me, dodge, and then I pickpocket. And you basically just mad square to do the pickpocketing. But see, the problem, and see, this is where like what I said earlier kind of comes into play about nothing being done right, is that it's so sloppy because you only pickpocket when you're directly in front of them. And sometimes that's what that stylish dodge does. It whips you around so that you're no longer like we're in a position. Like, you see how I'm all on the floor fucking dancing and shit? You got to make sure that you get back into position to steal from them, because you can only pickpocket when they're directly in front of you. And so, like, that's just one of the ways that the game kind of works against you, because that stylish dodge causes him to do so much like really unnecessary movement that it can fuck up like your positioning in relation to the person you're trying to pickpocket and render unconscious. I think that's the item right there too. Okay, so we got the designated item, and so I'm going to just get the hell out of here now that I have it. Let's try to find the best way out. Okay. Now sometimes you'll just do the stylish dodge just to get away from enemies. It's not always. Oh yeah. All right. So this is another mechanic of the game. So if you get seen too much, eventually they'll call in the guards, and you see that flaming icon with the little weapon over it next to my health bar. Typically it's at a 1. You only see one of those, but I think they go up to like 4 or 5. It's kind of like the wanted meter in Grand Theft Auto. Finders Keepers Part 3. You receive 1,200 Mon as a special reward. Now to exchange the loot for the money or give it to the people. Oh, I'm getting the money. Fuck that. Shit, the villagers like me enough. Fuck that. But anyway, it sort of acts as a wanted meter. So as you can see, it's only 1 up there right now. That means that the guards are not on high alert. But any higher, and usually you'll see a cutscene as it happens, that means that guards are flooding the area and they're looking for a thief because somebody has reported you. And typically that happens when you get seen too much in the same area. And that'll happen whether you have a disguise on or not, because they're just looking for a thief, period. So if you get seen too many times while on a job, eventually it's gonna get flooded with guards. And I think the longer you linger, like the longer you linger in that area, and you're like trying to dodge them and fighting them or whatever, then that meat is gonna keep going up to about 4 or 5. And the more it goes up, the more dangerous guards are gonna be showing up. Like the elite guards are gonna start showing up. And obviously they're going to be a bit more problematic than the normal, regular ones. Okay, here's another job for us. Only 2 hours, huh? We might not have enough time for this. I'll go anyway, but I don't think we got enough time for this. There's a time limit to do all the jobs. And if you take a job on, like when there's only like 2 or 3 hours left to do it, then you might actually fail the mission just based on not having enough time to do it. But again, you can do these missions fairly quickly when you know what to do. You see, you see me over here maneuvering. Oh shit. Okay. That was sloppy. I went straight for the pit pocket instead of the dodge. That's what fucked me up there. Okay, so I got the item, but we still might not have enough time here. Yeah, I don't think I have enough time. Oh yeah, and if you see a blue after image, when you do the stylish dodge instead of a red one, the blue means it was a perfect dodge, which means that I think it'll give you more time to get away. Okay. But I don't think I have enough time. In fact, I think oh shit. So you saw that guard there, he almost well, he was suspicious of me. That's because I had the disguise on. Okay, I still got time. So that's another thing to keep in mind with this game is that when you wear a disguise, it automatically makes you suspicious to the guards. So you got to remember to take your disguise off after you get done thieving. But you also got to remember to put it on when you're about to start stealing, because you don't want to get seen. You don't want to be seen while doing illegal acts, because that'll make the wanted posters resemble you more, which is obviously not a bad. I mean, which is obviously a bad thing. So whenever you finish a job, make sure you take the disguise off. I'm just sort of walk around. I'm gonna not do a mission right now. I'm just kind of walk around and explain different game mechanics if I can. It's nighttime. Let's go for a nice peaceful walk. We always get into some bullshit. But yeah, if you have a disguise on, it automatically makes you suspicious. Because you got to remember, for the most part, people don't know that Ebizo is the noble thief. So as long as you don't have a disguise on, the guards are not going to be suspicious of you for the most part. Even though I would be suspicious of anybody walking around like this with a bag over their neck or whatever. But the second you put that disguise on, it makes you look like a thief, and so the guards are going to react to that. Now, here's another interesting thing about the villagers, though. Once the villagers actually like you, even if they see you with the disguise on and a bag full of loot, they're not going to report you, and most of them are not going to react in a negative way. They're going to cheer you on because they know, oh, that's the noble thief. So that's another good thing about making the villagers like you, is that they become less of a nuisance when you're trying to get around the various areas in the game. Because sometimes you just might happen to have your disguise on, or like really the biggest issue is the loot bag. So when the loot bag is close to being full, that makes you just as suspicious as having the disguise on. So a big part of the game is that you got to be careful with how much you put into your bag, because if your bag gets too big, the guards are going to become suspicious of that. But also the villagers, if they don't like you. If they like you, they're not going to care what the hell you're doing. So that's another good thing about being on the good side of the villagers, is that you can walk around with your disguise on and a bag full of loot, and they're not going to bother you. In fact, they'll cheer you on because they know, oh, that's the guy that's helping out the villagers by basically stealing for us and taking back the things that were taken from us by bandits. And because some of the quests in this game, they vary. Some of the quests are about just taking from the rich, giving back to the poor. But the narrative in this game is that a lot of the rich merchants and stuff, like, they're evil. They've been stealing and taking advantage of the villagers and townspeople. So that's why, it's kind of seen as justified what he's doing. But some of the missions also require you to steal from other thieves and bandits who are not as honorable and noble as yourself. So, but another thing too about this game is that some of the missions also make it so you are going against the villagers directly. So you gotta be careful which missions you accept, because some of them are actually, I guess you could say, against the villagers' interests. So this is the charm shop. You can buy charms, and so these charms are basically like little boosts to help you out throughout the game. As long as you have it on you, then its effect is going to be in effect until you sell it or put it up. Let me see which ones I have before I buy one. Cause I know I sold 2 of them that I wanted to get back. Let me see. What do I have? What is that? That's probably the stealth, and I don't know. I can't even tell which one I got. Hold up. I got the health and stealth charm. Okay. Let me get the let me see, the money. Charisma. I guess I'll get the money charm. I think the money charm makes it so valuable loot appears more often in the game. But yeah, you got to be careful which missions you accept, because some of them are actually against the villagers. So I guess it depends on what ending you want. I think there's like a evil route ending where you were basically totally against the villagers and just stealing indiscriminately. But another thing too, you got to be careful about what you take and give back to the villagers, because they don't want you taking from good people. So I think there's like one shop in the town that's considered good, and if you take like the bags of rice from there and try to put it into the villagers box, they're gonna recognize that you took that from one of the good merchants, and it's gonna actually count against you. So you gotta be careful with shit like that. All right, let me see if I can do anything here. Now I'm just kind of freestyling, but this is a good place for loot sometimes. You got these big ass. Oh, okay, that was bad. Okay, that was. Let me just get out of here. That's a bad sign. Let's just get out of here. So one thing you don't want to do is get hit. If you get hit, it can damage the loot that you've already taken. And let me tell you, one hit can hurt a lot. I remember, like, you see right under the health bar, right? You see under the health bar, there's a number, 206. That's the value of the loot that you currently have. So you can't convert that into money until you take that to the thieves' bathhouse. So any loot that you get, you got to make sure you get it back to the bathhouse. And I remember one time I had like 4,000 mon worth of loot, and I got hit one time and it went down to like 1,000 or something. So that's making sure you don't get hit is another big part of the game. Like it's a big punishment. It's a big punishment for getting hit. At least when you have a lot of loot on you, 'cause it'll cut it down significantly. Oh yeah, another thing too about the wanted signs. Now, obviously, this is like the lowest it can get, because it looks nothing like me, a balding middle-aged man, right? But the way to get your wanted level down, so to speak, is to essentially steal or destroy the wanted signs. So you gotta make sure that you're regularly checking them and stealing them to keep your wanted level down and to keep people from being able to recognize you. Because if you don't monitor that, then eventually that picture is gonna look more and more like you. And the more it looks like you, the more suspicious the guard is going to be of your behavior. Like, I think even before it looks completely like you, they'll start like following you around. Like once it kind of looks like you. So yeah, you gotta be careful with that. All right, let me see. That's him putting on the disguise, by the way. Typically, the better the disguise, the longer it takes for him to put it on. That's kind of the drawback there. But see, this is like, look, this is what I'm saying. Like, maybe this is, like, you notice, again, I'm trying to pickpocket him to make him unconscious, but you got to align yourself right in front of him the right way. And, you know, that's just one of the little minor annoyances of the game. Now, it's easy like that. Like, this is an easy one, but sometimes it's more difficult. Because if you're not directly in front of them, you'll just end up slapping them, which doesn't do any damage or anything. It's just like, it's just doesn't do anything really. Now, one good thing, but also a stupid thing about this game is that if an enemy sees somebody unconscious, they're not going to really react to it in a significant way. It's not like Metal Gear Solid where if they see somebody hurt or unconscious, they're going to go into alert mode. Now you see there that it says my bag is starting to draw attention. That means that I have a lot of stuff in there. And now my bag is full. Let me just jump out the window here. Woo! You know, and see, that's what happens when you start to understand how the game works. You know, you figure it out, and then you know how to get your shit and get out. Oh shit, hold up. This guy's, he's a guard, so oh boy, hold up. This ain't so bad because I'm not on a mission, so I can still fast travel. But yeah, that's the bad thing about the loot bag. You see how big it is? Once it gets close to being full, it becomes suspicious, and then people will, you know, at least with guards will begin to harass you. Then villagers only if they don't like you. So keep that in mind. Then you bring it back and get the money. You know, overall a pretty simple process, you know. But the mission structure reminds me a lot of Way of the Samurai. Well, in particular, Way of the Samurai 2, because that's Way of the Samurai 2 is when it really I would say that's when they really found their footing in terms of the structure of the game. Because I think Way of the Samurai 1 was more like story heavy and didn't really give the player a lot of options in terms of things they could do in the world outside of, you know, progressing the story. Let's do another mission here. But in Way of Samurai 2, that's when they started bringing in, you know, like side missions and things like that you could do for like extra money and whatnot. And when I say it's the same structure, it's like just very simple, repetitive type of quests that, you know, don't get very complex. Like, you'll find yourself robbing a lot of this. Like, remember, I just left this place, and now I'm robbing it again for a mission. So you'll find yourself, you know, robbing or thieving from a lot of the same locations. And so, you know, in that sense, it becomes repetitive. Because there aren't a lot of complex missions that really stand out in terms of forcing you to do things differently. Like, some of the more different ones are, you know, optional. But I would say those are like the worst ones to do. I tend to do the best missions that get me the most amount of money and put me at the least amount of risk. And when I say like bad missions, I think some of the bad missions are the ones where you have to chase down other thieves. Oh shit. I did not see him. I got less loot because I got sick. That guy was in the fucking corner, bro. Whatever. You know what I did wrong there though? Was that I saw the screen turn red, but instead of just pressing the button, I was sitting there like, where is he? That was my fault. That was dumb of me. Instead of just pressing the button, I was like, where? Because I couldn't see him. He was in the corner there. But as you can see, even after that, you know, you just take your disguise off, get out of the area, and then you can get right back. Get right back to the streets like nothing happened. But yeah, you know, you do have different types of missions in the game. I tend to go for missions like that where you just pretty much break in, steal something, and leave. I don't like the missions where you have to take back stuff from the thieves and whatnot. And really, the problem with those types of missions, the missions where you have to take stuff back from other thieves or any sort of mission that has you dealing with other thieves, is that it forces you to pickpocket in unfavorable situations a lot of times. Like I remember there was one where I believe the mission was to take something back from a bandit. And oh God, all these cutscenes.
よし。
もし、海老蔵様
Ebizo, that's his name.
あんたは。
お呼び止めしてすみません。私は白門と申します。
But yeah, there was one mission where you had to take something back from a bandit. And so obviously that means you got to run up to him and pickpocket him. But he was in the middle of town with guards and villagers like all around him. And not only that, he's on high alert the whole time. He's not just relaxing. He's on high alert looking out for somebody trying to rob him. And so those types of missions to me are the worst because they don't pay a lot and they put you at the most risk. And so really I found myself sort of just playing the same sort of mission over and over again because they were easier and paid more and came with less risk.
俺の願いはただ一つ。娘の病の回復だけだ。
そうですか。
すまんな。
I guess she's like the love interest of the game. I got her ending last time. So here's another interesting thing about the game. So as you know, there are 4 different endings, and that depends on the path you take throughout the story in the game. You know, what type of thief you are and the decisions you make. Very reminiscent of Way of the Samurai, which also has, you know, multiple endings. So, you know, the value or the replay value of the games tend to come from trying to get the different endings and taking a different approach each time. I'll say I kind of feel like this game doesn't offer as much in terms of the different ways you can approach the game. I mean, there's only 4 endings compared to like Way of the Samurai games, which tend to have like 10 or more. But I ended up getting the ending revolving around that girl you just saw, and that's because my daughter ended up dying. And you know, it was so funny to me because I really tried hard to take care of his daughter and make sure she would live. But I didn't fully understand the mechanics surrounding how you would keep her alive, right? So I thought the way it seemed to me was that you had to give her a dose of medicine every day. And the medicine is pretty expensive. It's 3,000 a pop. It's 3,000 mon a pop. And you know, right now at this point in the game, that's not too bad. But you know, early on, especially on your first playthrough where you don't fully understand how the game works, you know, that's kind of intimidating. You know, 3,000, having to make sure you come up with at least 3,000 a day. But on top of that, you got to pay tribute to the thieves, the bathhouse thieves boss here. You got to pay her tribute, and how much of that you have to pay her is kind of up in the air. They don't tell you exactly how much. They just tell you that if you don't, it's going to be consequences. Hold on, what the hell is this guy talking about? The noble lockpick. All right, so let's go ahead and do that then. Let me take a bath real quick then. There we go. Ooh. Nice. But yeah, I didn't fully understand how it worked in terms of keeping her alive, right? So I thought that all you had to do was give her at least one dose a day. But that's not exactly how it is. So essentially she has her own health bar, right? But you don't see it, of course. It's an invisible health meter that she has. And depending on how high her health is, you'll see it reflected in her actions in the house. So when she's doing, like, of course, her worst state is death. Then above that, she'll be laying in her futon. Above that, she'll be sitting up in her futon. Above that, she'll be, I think she'll be like sitting in the house somewhere or standing up. And then after that, she starts walking around again. And then she's fully healed. So basically the way it works that I didn't understand. In fact, let's see her right now. As I explain this, we can fast travel back there. But the way it works that I didn't understand is that in order to cure her, you have to give her enough medicine and good food, because food counts as healing her too, just not as much as the medicine. The food is just like a little small bonus to add on to the medicine you're giving her. But the way to cure her is to bring her health all the way up by giving her those, medicines and foods. But the thing is, her health is constantly falling at the same time. So you have to give her enough medicine in a short enough amount of time to where her health can max out and she will be completely healed. So once you completely cure her of her disease, you no longer have to buy or give her stuff anymore. As you can see, it says give Suzuna an item. I can't give this. Oh, no, wait. She doesn't need anymore. So once you get her health all the way to the top, that means she's cured and you no longer have to buy those fucking medicines. And so the mistake that I made the first time I played the game was that I was giving her medicine every day, but I wasn't giving her enough to bring her health all the way back up. But they never explain that to you. They never explain exactly how it works. The only thing I knew was that if I missed a day, and really I would never miss a day. I would probably miss it by like an hour or two. But then they will let you know when her condition is getting worse. And so I would notice, so they would tell you, and then I would go pick one up real quick, give it to her. And a lot of times I had an extra one just in case. So I was on point in terms of giving her one every day. But I didn't know that it wasn't about giving her medicine every day. It was about giving her enough so where she could fully heal all the way back up, which means that you have to give her like 2 a day or like 3 in the same. Like, I think somebody online said if you give her 6 in one day, it'll completely cure her. But again, I didn't know it worked like that. So she ended up dying during my first playthrough, because if she's not fully cured by a certain point in the game, she'll just die automatically. But once you get her cured by giving her enough medicine and food, then you don't have to worry about it anymore. But that's just, to me, the reason why I explained that is because I think it's another example of why this game is so flawed. Because with every single mechanic and thing in this game, there's always something off about it. And Suzuna's health is a big part of the story and one of the big motivators for the player and of course the character in the game. And they don't even really accurately explain to you how that whole thing works, how that whole system works. And so because of that, she ended up dying. I mean, it is what it is, but I found it disappointing because I don't think they did a good job of explaining to the player how it works. Okay, let's get this new lockpick here. All right, so the wanted poster is still doesn't look anything like me, so that's great. Let me put the mask on. You can also drop your bag and use it as a weapon. I don't do that very often. As you can see, why? But different bags are better suited for it. Some bags hit harder. They have a higher power attribute, and some go a further distance when you kick them. So my bag is optimized for stealth. So, because I think in this game the most important thing is just not being seen. Silver lock. But like I said before, once you get used to the game and how it works, you can get into a nice flow. And I think there are enough things going on that, again, it keeps you interested, because once you get over the learning curve, then you can just sort of approach the game and explore it and you know, just chase whatever curiosity you might have about it, in terms of, like, maybe you want to know where the story goes, or like, I remember one thing in particular that kept me invested was the thief boss at the bathhouse. The more tribute you give her, like tribute money you give her, the more items become available at the store, at the bathhouse, and the greater variety of skills you can unlock from Pop, with your skill points. And so I was like, okay, that's interesting. That's something that I want to see, you know. But I also noticed that there was a middle option when you talk to her. And I was like, you know what? I bet if you give her enough tribute money, she'll probably sleep with you. And lo and behold, I was right. If you give her 100,000 mon over the course of the game, then there'll be a little cutscene where she's like, you know, she's going to reward Ebizo with a little nightcap. Of course, you don't see anything. The game is rated T for teen, but you know, me being the Coomer that I am, I was like, I gotta at least like. It's kind of funny because I already knew where that was headed. I was like, that middle option has to be like her fucking you. Maybe I can show it off when I go back. But that's one of the things that kind of kept me invested. Was like, if I give her enough tribute money, I can get Ebizo some pussy. And I think she gives you like a special. What the fuck? How did he see me? Whatever. We ain't worrying about it. But yeah, not only does she sleep with you, it also unlocks, I think, more items and skills at the shops. And she gives you a special, I think, like a special color for your disguises or something like that. But I think little things like that, you know, that's what helps keep the player invested. When like those little curiosities and wanting to know what happens if I do this, what happens if I do that, you know. Like even like one thing about this game is that you see I got a level there. I'm level 19 out of 20. Your levels carry over between playthroughs. You know, and so, you know, the game does little things for the player that can make you sort of stay invested. It's just that, unfortunately, everything is executed so poorly that I just can't recommend or say that this is a good game. This is a struggle game. So this is the medicine that you have to buy for Suzuzu, when she's still ill. So, and it's quite pricey. But of course, right now it'd be nothing. I'm balling. I think even the story itself is pretty mediocre too. I only got one ending, so I can't say that I've seen everything the story has to offer. But I've seen a lot, and I think the story too is another, again, just mediocre aspect of the game. You know, you might get hooked into it out of curiosity and wanting to know where it goes. But let me tell you, it doesn't really go anywhere special. I think, you know, when I look at the story, much of it was very predictable throughout. I think the only thing that surprised me was one of the elite guards ended up being like a thief, low key or something like that. But that was it. I found just about every other aspect of the story. And then on top of that, what makes it even worse though is that you know, you have these boss fights like the one you saw earlier. Okay, these are the new skills you can buy from Pops. Some of them are quite pricey. Disrobe, Yang, a move that strips the clothing and belongings off of women. So you see something like that and you're like, okay, I gotta see that. Right? I gotta see that. So this is the boss of the bathhouse thieves. Stay the night. Are you planning to stay the night?
まったくあんたの腕には惚れ惚れさせられたよ。どうだい？礼と言っちゃなんだけど今晩は
Won't you let me buy you a
私に振る
drink?
舞わせてもらえないかね。
It takes a while to get to this point though, because you got to give her 100,000. You got to give her 100,000. Wait a minute. Why was he sleep next to? I'm not even gonna ask. I'm not even gonna ask. Because the first time I did it, that didn't happen. So I don't. I'm not even going to ask what the hell that was about. I think they're trying to tell you that you didn't sleep with her. I don't, whatever. But they didn't show that last time. Last time it was just, you know, it was implied sex. That time, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Chicken bag. Let me cop that. Got a new bag. We'll check it out later. Yeah, I'm just not even. I mean, y'all couldn't even do that right. Y'all had to do that to my boy. That's what I'm saying, bro. This game doesn't do shit right. This game don't do nothing right. You know, I will say I've had some mid-level fun with this game. But man, it just doesn't do anything fucking right. Everything is bad or mediocre at best. But what I was saying, you know, as far as the story, right? You have these new characters that pop up in the form of these boss fights, and every one of them is like a complete goofball. Like, you remember that girl that looked like a muscular man? Every boss fight is like that. Every boss character is like some fucking goofy ass dude. There are only like two, I was, let's say, like serious adversaries that aren't like goofy as fuck. And so what I'm saying is, as you're running into these guys who are a part of the Silver Ravens, which is like a group of evil, like bad thieves. Yeah, as you're running into these guys, you know, these encounters are supposed to be setting up the story and the overall narrative of the game. You know, making you more and more invested into what's going on. But it's like every one of them is so goofy. Oh boy, that's great. I got a lot of money off that. But every boss from these silver rainings, every boss from the Silver Ravens, other than the last two, I should say, because they're like the main antagonists, they're complete goofballs. And they don't do anything of value in terms of adding to the story, in terms of making the player more invested in the story, or gaining more of an understanding as to what's going on. They're just these fucking goofy ass characters that you have these terrible boss fights with. You know, I guess I gotta say it because, you know, this game is made by Acquire, and I think Acquire did Tenchu as well. I think they did. I'm pretty sure Acquire has something to do with Tenchu. I know they definitely had something to do with Way of the Samurai, but if not, then whatever. But I'm just thinking about Tenchu right now, and it's like, you look at Tenchu. Tenchu is a stealth game, but it has combat as well. And even though you can get through most of the game primarily with stealth, other than the boss fights, you can tell that, you know, they put enough time and energy into the combat to make it satisfying for the player. It should that be the route that they take. Now, obviously, you're gonna have to have boss fights. You know, so you know that's another reason to make sure that the combat is polished and, you know, at least satisfying, somewhat satisfying. But you know, like that's what this game is lacking. Is that care and that care and attention to detail to where it's like, you know, we got to make sure every aspect of the game is at least decent. You know, and that's just not there with this game. You know, it's funny, man. I've sat here and beat this game and I'm still playing it, but I've got mostly nothing but bad things to say about it. Let's see here. I want to do another one, but I think I'm gonna freestyle the next one. Just kind of go out, do my own thing. What I got on me? My charms. Fuck that. I don't really use those anyway. Okay. Woo! But it seems like I only have bad things to say about this game. So what is it about it that's good? Nothing. But seriously, I think Way of the Thief is like a retarded child. Way of the Thief is like a retarded child that just, it can't do anything right, but its heart is in the right place. You know, if you ever had a family member or knew somebody that was retarded, you don't hold it against them. And especially if they're one of those like radio type retards, you know, like the character Cuba Gooding Jr. played in the movie Radio. Like you gotta love. Like it's kind of like, I guess my relationship with this game at this point is kind of like that, where I recognize that this game is retarded, but it means well. And when you look at everything that they attempted, you can see how, if it was done better or done right, how this game could have been much better. Like, this game has a lot of potential. It's just that maybe they didn't have the budget, the time, whatever the case may be, the skill, I don't know. But to me, as I play this game, I can't help but feel like it has a lot of potential. It's just that every part of it is inherently flawed and nothing is done right. But then there are those little moments where things go your way and you can kind of appreciate that. Yeah, that's another one of these Silver Ravens who's going to be a boss later. After you get done with the prologue and, you know, you really get set up in the world, you know, when Ebizo decides to become a thief again and reunites with his Anarchy, and you know they develop a plan to have their own gang of noble thieves. You know, once you get past that and you get into the meat of the game, which is about now, the bad thing about this part of the game is that there aren't really any significant story beats. It's pretty much just you running into random members of the Silver Ravens. And like I said, they're all weirdos and goofballs, so they don't bring anything to the table narratively to get you more into the story. It's just like, oh, another weirdo I gotta steal from until he gets knocked out. But I guess one thing I can say about this game, one good thing I can say, and this is what I mean when I say like the concept is sound, is that, you know, during a time like this where you're in the middle of you know, one of these mansions and you're stealing and you're watching your loot go up. I've got to put the mask on too. But yeah, you know, at a time like this where you're in the middle of this wealthy mansion or manor and you're robbing them blind and everything's kind of going your way. And then you have a good grasp of the game's mechanics. As sloppy and unpolished as they are, I think that's when it begins to kind of become enjoyable, somewhat. In that in a way, it does work as a thief simulator. In a way, in a way, it does work. You know, when you have like that moment where you're at the second floor of one of the places that you're stealing from, and you're trying to make a quick exit and you just dive out like that. Like, that's one of those moments where it's like, okay, you know, now it's working for me. Like, that's cool. But sadly, those moments are just like few and far in between. But would I recommend this game? You know, because I made a thread on V the other night asking what was the last bad video game purchase you guys made, and I posted this game as mine. And somebody commented and said, "Is that game really that bad? I was thinking about getting it." And somebody commented or replied to him and said, I think he said that it's a bit overpriced or something. Like, so I think somebody, I believe somebody said it. Somebody said like it's overpriced or whatever. And so which one should I do? I think I'd like one more. Okay. But I think he said it was overpriced. And he's absolutely right. But I'll put it like this. If you're a fan of the Way of the Samurai series, Tenchu, you know, these ninja samurai acquire games, I think that there's something to be said about the style of these games. Because as I played this game, I can still feel that Way of the Samurai DNA that I know and love, you know? You can see glimpses and shades of it here and there. Like, it's there. It's just poorly executed. And so I would say to anyone interested in buying this game is that if you're a fan of Way of the Samurai and that's what caught your eye about this game, one, I would say lower your expectations quite a lot. Oh God. Lower your expectations, because it's not as good as you might think. I know what you think when you see it. It's not the way it looks on the surface. That's not it. Like, what I thought this game would be, this game isn't even half of that. It's like 35% of what I was expecting, if I'm being completely honest. But like I said, it has that Way of the Samurai DNA and style. And so if you like that, I would say it's worth the play, but you shouldn't spend more than $10 on this game. It's not the game itself is why I would say don't play it. Now, for the average gamer, I'd say just skip it. But if you're like me and you're a fan of Acquire and you're a fan of the Way of the Samurai games, then you might have a reason to actually try this game out. And I think just based on the fact that I'm still playing it and have completed it, you know, there's definitely something there. So I have to give it that at the very least, you know? And I think that something is only going to be worth it if you're already a fan of Acquire, their games, and in particular Way of the Samurai. If you're not, I would say just skip this game entirely. If you are, then I'd say go ahead, but don't pay more than $10 for it. I've never been on this ship before, too. I've never been here. It's kind of interesting. I've never once been on this ship. Did they not make any of the missions on this ship? Why do they even... Or maybe I just never played any of the missions that required you to come here. I don't know. This is my first time being on this ship, by the way. That's why I'm kind of like in awe. Well, this is kind of cool. Got some nice stuff here too. Okay, a gold lock, silver lock. But yeah, if you're a fan of Acquire and Way of the Samurai, then I would say, you know, knock yourself out. If not, you can skip it. But even as a fan, do not pay what I paid for this game. Ooh, that was valuable. That was worth 1,000. But, you know, I think this moment here kind of serves as an example of what makes it appealing. Again, when you're in a good flow as a thief in this game and everything is going your way and you're getting that good loot, you see those numbers go up. And especially now, having never found this place before, I'm kind of fascinated. Kind of fascinated about, you know, what could possibly be in here. You know, I think this is probably one of the highlight moments thus far, as like what is the selling point of this game. There we go. Oh, it was like a bunch of trash. Alright, the bag is full. I'm gonna have to come back here later and do some more stealing. Alright, I'm gonna cancel this mission. Okay, let's go back. Yeah, just don't pay what I pay for this game. It's not worth. And you know, you gotta keep in mind, like this is a PlayStation 2 game. This is a PlayStation 2 game. And they, you know, they they really took this bitch off the PS2 and put it on the PS4, like, like nobody would realize it. But this is very much a PlayStation 2 game. This is every bit of a PlayStation 2 game as you would imagine. So you got to keep that in mind too when you go into this game. But I just found myself being disappointed in this game so much because it's just, when you look at what's there, the potential that it has, like, damn, man, like this game really could have been something special, and instead it's just like not even mediocre. Again, it's too flawed to even be considered mid. But it does have a strange appeal to it. I can't even lie. It has a strange appeal to it that has kept me playing it. And I think a lot of it just has to do with the fact that it's easy enough. It's easy enough that you can deal with its flaws and still explore and make progress in the game as you want to. And I think really that's the key. If this game was more difficult, I wouldn't have beaten it. I wouldn't have been able to get through it. But I think because once I got a feel for it, I was able to just sort of explore it at my leisure. You know, there were a few challenges here and there, but the game is just it's really pretty easy. It's easy enough that you can look past its flaws and just try to understand it and see where it goes. And I think that's what kept me interested, just wanting to see where everything would go. And but I feel like at this point I've seen most of what the game has to offer, having beaten it once. I'll probably beat it one more time just to try to get the good Suzuna ending. But after that, you know, I'll put it away. But I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was my way of the Thief Adventures videos, as well as review, you can say. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I will see you later. Johnny.